Yay! Woo! Awesome. I'm gonna have so much fun editing all this out. Alright. And now Victor's on his phone because he can't be bothered waiting. Impatient guy. Anyway, as I was saying, RP giveaway. This month, at the end of the month, we're gonna see if we got hit 30 reviews. If we hit 30 reviews, we'll do the giveaway. If you give us a review, even if you're on like in America and stuff, because you know, we like you guys too, even though you're American, we can overlook that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why do you feel the need to alienate so many of our listeners?
Only the Americans. That's what Australians do. We make fun of them.
People who live in South Australia and people who live in
they can't have anything more to South Australia.
Podcast to find out exactly who you've said.
I should come up with a list of like all the different groups of like all the places where people live, and I don't care if I alienate them, which I think is pretty much Manjimup, Tasmania, South Australia, Darwin, and like the entire US. So sucks to be if you live in any of those places. Stephen Casto. So anyway, so yes, back to what we were. Don't forget our sister shows, the Trinity Force podcast and the T-Force LCS Rundown, and the Forwards podcast. So if you go to trinityforcepodcast.com, you can get access to all those shows. In particular, I would recommend to you the most recent Trinity Force podcast, which had a sports, like a psychologist came on, or like a therapist, and he talked about like the psychology of solo queue and all that sort of stuff. So that was really cool. So yeah, make sure you check that out. I think it was called Psychopathy or something like that. I can't remember, but I listened to it today. It was really good.
It's probably on their website.
Yeah, it's on their website, which would be...
It's not even their latest episode, Carrot. It's actually episode 249. They're up to 250.
Oh,
and it is called Psychotherapy.
Well, there you go.
Except it's spelled and capitalized.
That's what I'm talking about.
P-S-Y-C, capital H, capital O, capital P, A-T-H-Y. The joke's gone over my head.
Yeah, I don't get it either, but that's okay.
Some yank bullshit.
Yes.
That might be the guy's summoner name.
Yeah, well, it could be. I think they should just change it to some yank bullshit. I think that's a pretty good summoner name.
I like that.
I'm gonna make a Smurf called that
you
now.
should really listen to this episode, and now we're just banging it out. I have no part in this. I fully support our brothers over at that.
Episode 82 of the OzLoL podcast. We got kicked out of 24's network.
Yeah, that's it.
Network.
That'll be the episode title 83 is No More T-Force Network. They love us. They love our accents. It's okay. They don't mind if we paid out on them. Alright. The T-Force Network subreddit, reddit.com/r/T-Force Network. If you go to that, there's basically discussion threads for all the different Trinity Force Network shows, and there's good discussion. And if you actually want to catch up with people and actually talk with people, there is a Trinity Force TeamSpeak, which is ts.trinityforcepodcast.com. So you need to go take that address, put it into your server address in TeamSpeak. Don't just go to that website; you won't find it. And that's the server. So and there's room for all the Trinity Force shows and like LCS watching parties and all the rest of it. So make sure you check it out. And just before, sorry, Steve.
I'm in there right now.
Well, there you go. And just before I forget, Ranconius is not with us because his internet sucks, and we don't understand why he does not have good internet since he is a nerd, and nerds cannot live without good internet. So I don't know what's going on with that.
It's a funny coincidence that his internet's been terrible since Netflix hit Australia.
That's true.
What an amazing coincidence.
Yeah. Basically, I like it's my fault that his internet sucks because I'm currently watching all of them in high def. So good. Daredevil. If you haven't seen Daredevil, you need to go out and see it. It's really good. And the last thing I want to make mention, I just want to give a very special thank you to Trippy Guy. He's done some really good work for us with the Battle Arena while OPL's been on. Sometime either this week or next week, we'll probably get back into that since the OPL's finished. But I just want to give a very special shout out to him because he's awesome. And actually, before I forget, a special shout out to Tim Walker, our Silent, our producer, who has been our producer for quite a while. He's now doing renewed the Sheen Procs podcast, which essentially he's going to the LCS and interviewing players. So if you really want to hear from the players in the LCS, make sure you subscribe to the T-Force LCS Rundown, because basically they have now interviews after the LCS, courtesy of our wonderful producer. And I think that's for show news. Let's get
Just
into...
remember where he came from.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the humble beginnings, the hard knocks of the editing the OzLoL podcast. It's such a difficult place to grow up.
And now he's going to have more listeners than even us.
That's it.
The
Because of
people
us.
he slaved.
Because
The
of us.
people he slaved for.
Yeah.
He now has more listeners.
We're going to direct all the multitudes of our fans to the Sheen procs. It's going to be like Beatlemania. All over again. I'm telling you.
Well,
Get
you
ready.
might have reciprocated that before you like completely alienated all the Americans.
Beatlemania is good. What are you talking about? Okay, yeah, let's talk about OPL final. So, if you didn't catch it, last Thursday was the final of the very first OPL split between Direwolves and Chiefs. And yes, spoilers, of course, but you should have watched it because it was very good. Chiefs won 3-0. Yes! Yes, yes, yes. Not only won 3-0, absolute crushed the crap out of them. This makes me happy.
So for any fans of Direwolves listening, congratulations on being the second group alienated by Karen.
Hey! It's not my fault. Their team sucked. No, they were really good actually. No, let's talk about it. So, I mean, you guys, what were your thoughts of the games?
Well, it was pretty much as we predicted in our prediction show last week, where
that's what I predicted.
Yeah, well, your prediction was one off, I think. But anyway, we were expecting Chiefs to do really, really well and play consistent and well enough to take home a 3-0. And that's exactly what they did. They played to their strengths. The 3-0s always seem to be the ones we have the least to talk about because it's pretty rudimentary what happened in those games.
Well,
like,
it's not as quite as crushing as, say, like Samsung White or, like, who was it, like SKT a couple of years back where it was just like, it was a 60-minute, like basically it was 3 20-minute games and then you were done. It's like, oh, that's anticlimactic at Worlds. There's a bit more to it than that.
I'm really happy that Chiefs have maintained their level and improved on their level over this entire time. I'm really glad that they're going to be representing us on the international scene. I really hope that they can, do Australia proud, do the Oceanic region proud, and just smash overseas. I really want to see it. And it's realistic this time. Like with Legacy, it was like, wow, Legacy came from out of nowhere, and the underdogs beat the Chiefs. Wow. Well, let's hope they can do really well. And there was some, drafting issues and whatnot that happened over there. Like, they still did very well, but they could have done better. Now, I'm less worried about that with Chiefs.
I just think you're salty they picked Zillion.
Yep.
Hang on, when did they pick Zillion?
Instead of Oriana. You don't remember this discussion from last year?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry. I'm with you. I'm like... Vic, what was your take on the games?
I don't really have much to add, really. They're just very similar games. They get ahead. Like, Chiefs are just the best team in our region for getting ahead and holding a lead. You said Samsung White before, and it's very similar to the Samsung White style of get ahead and then win early. And Chiefs really are very good at that, even against Direwolves, who are very good at playing from behind and stalling the game. So absolute smashing, I agree. Really goes to show the level at which Chiefs are above everyone else. It shocked even me, who thought Direwolves would win at least one game, and they did not.
Well, the point that you made about the Direwolves being really good at playing from behind, if you actually watch at least game 1 and 2, they were very good. They were able to hold on. They were playing correctly given their circumstances. Like, whenever they would have a ward cleared in their jungle, they would group, push back into their jungle with safety in numbers, sweep out the wards that Chiefs put down and put their own back down, and then retreat back to the tower safety. And they were doing that really, really well and consistently. But that sort of, like, that trick would work against every other team in the OPL. But except Chiefs just nailed it. Like, they've mastered this that style of play now. So yeah, and I really want to see them on the international stage now. I'm psyched. I can't wait to hear what Riot Games OCE are going to be doing with what are they called? Boot camps and like the preparation for all that sort of stuff. Like I'm really, I can't wait to hear the next announcements that come.
Do we know the next matches for Chiefs?
When are they playing with the international wildcards?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
do we
it's
know what?
Yeah, so they're playing the
Yeah.
24th to the 26th of April. So basically, it's not this weekend, but next. They're playing. There's 7 teams, which is basically Brazil, GPL, which is a big step down from them from being in Worlds last year. You got Latin America, obviously OPL, Japan, Russia, or in the Commonwealth of Independent States, and the Turkish League. So basically, the new additions into this wildcard tournament is GPL and Japan from last year's wildcards. And the winner of that goes to the mid-season invitational.
Chiefs.
Here's one for Victor. Okay, Russia versus Chiefs. Who are you going for?
Isn't it obvious?
Yep.
Yes, it is. Chiefs. All right, moving
So
on.
basically, teams. It doesn't look like the Brazilians have done their playoffs yet, or at least it's not on the eSportspedia. But according to eSportspedia, the teams that are going from GPL, Saigon, Fantastic Five. You've got Chaos Latin Gamers, Detonation Focus Me from Japan, Hard Random, who I think they've played before. Was that last year or the year before? I'm trying to think.
I can't remember. I remember the name.
I think it was the first year. I think it was like the first wild card. And then you've got some Turkish team whose name I can't even really pronounce. It's like Beşiktaş Esports Club. So,
Like Dutch Dignitas, is that?
yeah, I don't know. It's like, well, Turkish Dignitas. And then Brazilian team. So I guess they're still in their qualifications. Yeah. So, I mean, it's hard to tell, obviously, unless you're prepared to watch a game that's being streamed in another language that's not English. It's kind of hard to follow what's going on, but yeah, it'll be interesting. But I just want to go back to the games versus Direwolves. Like, I mean, it was the first 2 games in particular. So game 3, Direwolves actually kind of held their own against Chiefs for probably about 40 minutes. And then Chiefs kind of... I mean, it seems the Chiefs just kept sniping people in that game. But even in the first game, I mean, their rotations, their picks... I mean, they gave Swiffer, or allowed Swiffer to get TF twice. And that's a bad idea. Swiffer's really good on TF, and you really shouldn't give it to him. But they kept letting him have it. So, I think after game... Yeah, I think they kind of went on tilt a bit, Direwolves, after, like, certainly during the games, but I think even after game 1, like, they were just completely, like, game 1, they were just completely rattled. Like, because what was interesting is actually, Chiefs came out very aggressively early, which has kind of actually been a bit of a weakness for them. Like, the times that they generally get beaten is because, or at least last year, was because they kind of didn't have the quickest start. Other teams jumped on them early, and then just punished them and just kept them down. The other game they lost this season is because they got sloppy. So yeah, it was just good to see. I mean, game 1 you had Elise, Lucian, and Anivia, and they were just tearing things up. It was quite impressive. So, and they also let I think Swiper had Scion twice as well. So yeah,
I gotta say, I did fangirl a little bit when I saw Elise being picked.
Yeah.
I was like, yay! I was very enthusiastic to see her again.
There will never be a time when I get to fangirl over champion picks, because no one will ever pick Tarek or Gangplank.
No.
Until they
The
rework
reason
them.
is, when they change them so that they're viable, you won't like them anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was... Chiefs really showed that they are better players. I mean, Perfection's really good. I mean, he did some amazing work. I think he got Vlad twice, and just really impressive. Like his ability to kite and do damage. And King is a fantastic marksman as well. But just Chiefs were just better in pretty much every way, and that was good to see. Like it wasn't ever really close. Especially game 1 and 2, like they never looked like they were out of the game. Never even got close to being out of the game, or even being even. So, I think that's encouraging for what they're going to have to go into with wildcards, because it's going to be a lot tougher because the competition. Well, basically, you've got the cream of the crop of the international wildcard scene. So, yeah. All right. Well, I guess was there anything you guys want to add?
Here's to the Chiefs winning all of Worlds.
Yep.
Let's go with that.
So basically, the winner of the wildcard playoff goes to mid-season invitational, which is, and I'm trying to find where it is. Oh, I can't find it. It will be, I guess, in May. I think it's in May. Yeah. So make sure you're watching that as well. I think. Do you guys know where they're playing? Like where they're playing for mid-season invitational.
I know where Steve's going to be playing it.
Tallahassee, Florida.
The freaking moon.
So the mid-season invitational is the 7th to the 10th of May. So basically 2 weeks after the wildcards. So that'd be fun if.
I'm glad you found that, because I had the link to it somewhere and I can't find it.
Yep.
So disorganized.
It's Oceana's turn to be the kaboom and go and kaboom another team that's cool like Alliance.
Well, I mean, Radier, going back a couple of years, like when they got in 2013. Like, I mean, I just in this last week, they showed a screenshot of, Radier versus Doublelift, and he actually beat Doublelift. It might have been a scrim, or it might have been. I'm pretty sure it was a scrim, but these guys are good. And actually, when Legacy talked about their experience of when they played against European teams, like they were able to do pretty well. So I guess it's just kind of actually doing it on the day, like actually getting there on the day.
I think scrims are a much different environment. I mean, like Worlds last year, Reggie of TSM was talking about, we were scrimming Samsung White and we were beating them plenty of times.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's a bit. I mean,
I don't
like
think it's
pro teams, like LCS, like top quality teams, they really have no reason to hold back against like a wildcards team.
Well, the gap in skill in professional play, like there's always gaps in skill from team to team, from player to player, and the actual difference is sometimes not measurable. Like if you look at like people who compare Korea to China, for example, like Korea's strategy and tactics and drafting skills are infinitely better than any of the crazy crap that goes on in China. But the Chinese are able to just team fight and push, and they could do that better than anyone. And at the end of the day, if you can do that, do you really need all that strategy? No, you can just beat your head into their base and win when you've got a big enough lead. So, when you look at, say, Oceanic teams fighting against European teams, or North American teams versus Korean teams, and all that sort of stuff, you can have, like, games of League of Legends aren't decided before the games begin. Like, drafting has a lot to do with it. First blood, first dragon, first tower, ward placement, all of these things contribute. And if the skill level is close enough that in a team fight, 1 in 8 fights will go to this other team, if that one team fight is the one that wins the game, then, that's, it can happen. Like, and it can happen with, like, we only get to see we saw each team in the OPL fight each other twice, and then the finals, like the semifinals and finals. Right? That's actually not a lot of games to really go, oh, well, this team's clearly better than that one. Like, we saw the last place team take a game off the undefeated people at the time. The guys who went on to be champions. So on any day, a professional League of Legends team can pull out something and win. And I
mean, even Legacy last year, they played pretty well. It was just that Kaboom played even better, and certainly through the group stages, they were looking pretty good. I mean, it's. I guess the difficulty is like, well, I mean, the advantage Chiefs have got is they've done a lot of LANs. They've performed really well at LAN events for a while. So hopefully their nerves shouldn't be too too much, too strong. Especially since it's their second chance at wildcards. So
Yeah.
Actually, before we move on, let's talk about unless there's something else that anybody wants to add about the final. Let's talk about the OPL format itself, because obviously last year was quite different. You had events, you had sort of the games are played clustered around the weekends, and then on offline finals at sort of major conventions. So you had autumn was at Gold Coast Supernova. Winter was Perth Supernova, and then the final was at the regional final was at PAX. What do you guys reckon in terms of how they structured it this? Now that we've actually had the full split, what do you guys reckon? Is this a winner? Is there something missing by not having these offline events at major sort of conventions where there's spectators and whatnot?
Yeah, well, I quite like the regular, consistent, and professional level of esports delivery. I really do feel that Riot Games OCE have really done the right thing in adapting the format of the OPL that they have, and I have no doubt that next year the format will be even better than that. By locking
should mention that we've still got another split, as far as I'm aware, this
absolutely.
year. So,
but the next split will be the same as this split. With people qualifying through smaller tournaments and Challenger, getting promoted, then 8 teams battle it out. They fight each other twice, and then we have a championship, and then we go on. For the Oceanic Finals. So it's going to be the same format. It's going to be like summer and spring splits in North America and Europe, in terms of they don't change the format halfway through the year. So now that we've completed a split, as you said, I like it. Saying that they can't compete in other tournaments and all that sort of stuff, I don't think, because while I appreciate those extra tournaments and all the ones that go on the sidelines, I think that the way that OPL has been constructed and it's been played out, it's the best way to develop the best League of Legends esports in the Oceanic region. And like, if people were going to if you've got an OPL game and you're expecting to lose it, if you do a no-show, you get disqualified. But if you're also competing in this other tournament that could win you $500 a player, or $2,000 prize pool or something like that, there's incentives to not show up to events or whatever. So, it's a tough one, because I know that all these other organizations try really hard and they bring a lot to the community, but I still think they have a place in the challenger stuff. Like, the teams that haven't made it to OPL can go to these places, compete, hone their skills, hone their strategies and everything. And when it comes to qualifying for the big leagues, which is what OPL is in the Oceanic region, then they can really put those tournaments experiences to the test. So I really think this is something that we should have Ranconius on, because I know he feels very passionately about this topic as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the extra resources they're not spending on actually hosting a big thing, are being probably more effectively spent in, doing what they're doing now. And I mean, the studio's nice and it's well presented. They've actually moved to like a 3-camera format, which I was like, wow, that actually kind of fancy. Where they can actually have the single headshot of the person talking in the studio. And I just think it's like, and the regularity is good. Like, I think that's probably more than anything. Like, you can tune in every Monday night, every Thursday night, during the OPL, and there's games. And so I kind of...
I think another big part is the website. You can go to Oceanic Pro League.
Yeah.
It'll tell you who's playing, what time they're playing, what their score is, what the standings are. I love that website. Can I just say that? I think that has been largely... That is easily the biggest difference between OPL and any of the other leagues out there, because CGPL and all the other events, it's always very, very hard to find tournament structures, times of games, stream names, and everything. Like, you basically need to stumble upon the Reddit thread that the guy who started it up did and hope that it hasn't been downvoted into obscurity, you know. Or you need to do what I do, and that's have the people that talk about this stuff on notifications on Twitter, so that when the details are actually posted, it pops up on my phone. But it's never freely available. But with Oceanic Pro League, it always is, and it's reliable, and they've got articles, and it's just brilliant.
Yep.
That's oce.lolesports.com for those who are wondering which website I'm talking about.
And I guess it also just makes us feel like we're part of the same scene as everybody else. You know, like obviously, you know, yeah, there's no website that really does. Well, certainly not in the Oceanic scene. Like, there's no one who can present a nice website like Riot can. You know, it's just the reality of things. So, yeah, I mean, it's nice to have a crowd. It's, you know, nice to have spectators. But I think overall this is better. And I guess it doesn't stop them from having a big final at, you know, at PAX this year, you know, in November. Like, they could still do that one thing, but rather than spending so much time on the other two splits as well. So,
yeah. You know, I don't think we're, like, as much as I absolutely love going to these live events, I think the live events that happen are going to be even bigger, and they're going to get bigger and bigger every year. So, like, if you look at, like, the growth of the World Finals, like, you know, okay, there's a bunch of people in a room, you know, there's a few, you know, a couple of thousand people watching on stream, to the following year where it's in a stadium, and then the following year when it's in an even bigger stadium, like the Staples Center, and, like, that sort of growth is kind of expected at this point, based on, like, esports history of League of Legends. If that's anything to go by, then there's huge things coming for the Oceanic region.
Yeah, and in a couple years we're going to be in a giant stadium.
That's it, MCG, baby. Let's line it up. Let's kick out the AFL, tell them to buzz off, say, hey, guys, we know you like kicking this pigskin around, but this League of Legends stuff is, like, bigger. You can take your chisel tabs and get the hell out of here.
Yeah, oh boy.
Gotta let the nerd punch get in there. Vic, did you have any? Did you want to add anything before you sort of move on to patch 5.7?
The only thing that would make it better for me if we played would be if we played best ofs instead of just you play them and then that's it. I just
you mean during the regular week?
During the regular weeks, like when people come up to play, I like best of series more than just.
Well, that's a debate that's been going on for a while in the ocean, not just the Oceanic area, but worldwide. Like, yeah. If you look at,
I've always preferred that format. Like that's how Korea and China do it, isn't it?
Well, they've all changed. Yeah. They've all tried different methods and such. Yeah. My personal preference is. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, it's alright. I like best ofs because I think because you get to play more serious games against your opponents, against the same teams, and I think it helps better for learning and adapting and getting better and working out how to beat the other team and all that sort of stuff.
Well, there is the certain level of added complexity where, like, if you look at just a one-off, you can, like, say you're in the OPL currently, if you have two teams that you're going against, you're going to be going against Chiefs and Dire Wolves, or whatever the teams may happen to be. You can go, okay, well, let's focus on picks and bans for Chiefs. Let's focus on picks and bans for Dire Wolves. All right, so we'll write those down. All right, then we'll work on what compositions would be strong against their playstyle, or whatever the strategizing that you want. But when it goes to a best of three, you have your initial planning that still happens, but then you go, okay, we were not expecting Twisted Fate Nocturne, so now we have to ban that. So which ban do we give up? And it adds like a, well, what are the team going to do next? Tune in for the 5-minute break.
I mean, the big downside of having two games, like best of two, is that it's more time consuming. I mean, I haven't actually watched Korea in a while, but I mean, certainly last year with the OGN, it was on almost every night. You'd have basically 2 sets of games every night. It's just a lot more time consuming if you're talking about semi-professional people. In here, that's quite time consuming to be able to have to do that. So if you're going to have 2 sets of 2 games each, it's one thing to do it when you've got dedicated pros. It's another thing to do it when you've got people who've got uni and work and the rest of it. So,
Then again, as I said, I think it was 2 years ago in the early days of our podcast. It's like I would love to have the problem of such an overabundance of Oceanic League of Legends
of course,
that I can't possibly watch them all.
Yeah, well, not even time consuming for the viewers, but just time consuming for the people, like the actual players. So
And their support staff.
People would just tune in. I think for a viewer, I imagine they just tune in for the games they want to watch. Like, hey, I'm a huge Immunity fan. I'm gonna watch the Immunity games and not care about the rest of them, and just read like an update on them or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's how I became an XDG fan, or what were they called, Monomaniac Ferris, and like that history was because Picture of a Goose, like, and then as their names changed over the years, was because there was so many League of Legends games going on in IGN and all over the shop that I could not possibly fit in all of the games in a week. So I went, I'm going to pick one team that picks champions that I enjoy watching. And it was like, okay, Nocturne, Karthus, Shen, you know, like they had this whole trifecta of champions that I love. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch every game of those guys.
Yeah. And actually, before we finish up, I just want to give a big shout out to all the guys at Riot. The casters, Papa Smithy, Pastry Time, Atlas, and all the guys. You guys did fantastic work. Like, it was really professional. You know, you guys were organized. All the graphics were great. It was entertaining. So yeah, really like I set a really high standard for production.
100% agree.
So yeah.
Yeah, man.
Cool.
We have the second best duo in all of League of Legends, and we have the best hype caster in all of League of Legends. I think that's something to be proud of.
Who do you reckon's the best caster duo? Monty and Doa.
Monty and Duo.
Doa.
Yeah.
It's actually hard to say anybody's better than those guys. All right, let's talk patch 5.7. So
more patch notes.
Yeah, patch notes. Woo! All right. So patch 5.7 came out last week. We're just going to try and go through as much as I can in the time we have available to us. First up is Bard. Now, we haven't actually talked about Bard on this show, so I guess we'll have a little mini Bard discussion. So let's talk about Bard, what we feel about Bard, and whether these changes have helped with Bard.
I just want to say, you're just like, we're just going to have a little chat about Bard, and then we're going to start talking about Bard, and then you're going to say, well, we're running a little short on time, so let's just try.
Yeah, I know. It's probably going to be a half-hour Bard discussion, but at least it's under the guise of patch 5.7, and then when we get patch 5.8 next week, we'll just rip out our hair and go cry in a corner. Not that I have much hair left. Bard, all right. What do you guys reckon of Bard, and where he's sitting at? I mean, in terms of win percentages, I'm pretty sure he's at the bottom.
Yep.
Thoughts?
Let me explain that stat for a second. Bard is a absolutely terrible solo queue champion. You should not be playing him in solo queue. Like, if you want to be like a master Bard and pick him in every game and get flamed by people on your team and all that sort of stuff, that's your own prerogative. Do that. Bard is not designed for solo queue. Like, he just requires people to be so much more knowledgeable and attentive about the game state and other people on your team that just isn't really experienced in the solo queue thing. If you guys want to put a ranked 5s team together and run Bard strategies around that, you know that he's never going to be banned, and you know that they won't be expecting it, that is something in professional play. He's just perfect for lane swaps because, a 2v1 situation and Bard's weaknesses suddenly vanish. All of a sudden they become advantages, especially if you've got someone who can go toe-to-toe with the enemy top laner. Yeah, so, and because Bard is known pretty much as one of the weakest laners in the game. Like, if you take that guy into lane...
Yes.
Yeah, like, if you try and 2v2 with Bard, you're gonna lose. It's just how much time it takes you to die is really all you're really focusing on. Now, you can play super safe and, like, you can, ward crazily, but what are you really bringing to the team as a laner? Nothing.
Yeah.
That's not where Bard's power lies. As I discussed in our first thoughts on Bard, is the power really does lie in his mobility of the entire team and his Zonya's Hourglass AoE ultimate. And that can really only be utilized by a very well coordinated team. Like, let's be honest. Like, if someone hits an amazing Bard ultimate, it's very different than if someone hits an amazing Sejuani ultimate or Amumu ultimate. When people see the Amumu ultimate, they go, "Oh, it's time to fight. Let's kill these guys," you know. But when someone sees a Bard ultimate, they're like, "Well, I can't target them now." You know? Like, there's so many things that having Zhonya's on someone can do that it can be quite disorientating. Like, even if someone has just Zhonya's Hourglass in the middle of a fight, some of your team might go, "Oh, well, the other person will kill him," but, you know, everybody does that, so that person, like, LeBlanc dashes across the wall or whatever, you know, or other people go, like, so many people wait for him to come out of Zhonya's that they're just overcommitting resources. That's just one example of one person being unable to be targeted for a few seconds. So having Baron and towers and entire teams, allies and enemies, like, be able to be Zhonya'd at will by the enemy support, that needs to be communicated. What are we doing when this ultimate goes down? Are we getting in position for blah? Are we using it as a way to escape? Are we, you know, like, you need to be clear exactly what's going to be happening after that ultimate's worn off, or while that ultimate is still going on. So, and the ability to move from objective to objective with Bard's, what's it called? Magical Journey? I love that name.
Yeah.
That is where Bard's strength will really lie. And all of these notes here that are in the actual patch, like base attack damage, base armor, more mana from the Traveler's Call, you know, all of these things are kind of... Okay, so he sucks far less, you know, but it's still not where his strengths are. Like, that's... Yeah, this is... I'm sure that these stats will be to address his solo queue sorry story. Yeah, because you pick him in solo queue, it's not going to end well. Like, you can do well on him. I'm not saying it's a guaranteed loss. Hell, I've played Bard and won with him on was on an ARAM game, and I carried the hell out of that game. I'm just going to enjoy my moment.
You did not.
You recorded that one.
No. Maybe. I'll check.
Maybe. Check. Make a liar out of me. I remember it as I did very, very well. Yeah, but, like, base attack damage from 46 to 52. That's a sizable percentile increase. But still, attack damage isn't what you're relying on him for.
Yep.
4 extra armor, it's not like he's being picked as a jungler, you know, like, and, you know, but that might help him get crushed less in lane, who knows. What I think is quite good here is the Chime mana restoration going from... What is it? 15 plus 8% of missing mana to 12% of Bard's maximum mana? That's an important stat. That makes things like Frozen Heart and Righteous Glory and all that sort of stuff better on him than this.
Which is not when his mana issues are.
No, well, he does, but it just means that he can spam his crap more often. Yeah. Really. I
mean, just like, I think... So, I think that the increase on the decrease on his respawn time for his meeps is okay. Like, I mean, that will help. But, you know, as you said, like, it's not going to help you. I mean, the range of his auto attack is quite low. So and his Q is quite low. So you basically always have to put yourself in danger to use your abilities. He's got an unreliable stun. His heal is decent. The speed boost is nice. His ultimate is great for setting up ganks in lane. So, you know, your jungler's coming, you Zhonya's them. He's got 2.5 seconds to get there. Like, that's, you know, that's going to set up, you know, even if they ward, you know, like, certainly in low-level solo queue, when they're not paying attention to their wards all the time, it's like an easy double. But yeah, he just gets bullied around by everybody. You know, anybody can bully the crap out of him. Heck, Soraka can bully the heck out of him. And anybody with any hard engage just is going to take him to absolute flipping town.
Like, if you look at his Q, they've increased his AP ratio now. When has that ever helped a support?
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
It's never.
I mean, it would have been. I think it would have been more helpful if they increased the base damage at lower levels. I mean, because it is like it's basically the thing you level up for. I actually need to.
That's part of his problem. Is what do you level up first? Because, you know,
well, the stun duration on his Q does go up over with each rank. So I guess you can go with that if you don't want to go with healing.
Yeah, but the range on it is dangerous.
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, it's 925 isn't. Like, when you hear that, it's not bad, I guess. But, yeah, it is it is pretty risky. Like, because you got to position yourself in particular way. Say again?
Compare that to any other support and the safety and reliability of their stuns and their damaging abilities and their gap closers and initiation tools and such. Like, it's this is not a laning ability. This is a, haha, I roamed. I took a magical journey. I'm now in a spot that you weren't expecting. You know, I put some damage down on you, and now we go get dragon. You know, that's...
The big issue I think Bard really has is he's got two very, very strong multi-target sort of abilities. He can move his whole team, he can move the whole enemy team, and he can Zonya 10 people in one big shot. So I think the big issue with having two abilities as strong and as powerful as that, there's so many things you can do with these two abilities, you can't have too much power everywhere else because of these two. So he can't have his stun too strong. You can't give him too much lane sustain. You can't make roaming too powerful, and you can't make his passive like too strong because then it'd give him hyper carry status because he has to stack it up, which means okay, so it should be really good in the late game. It's ignorable in the late game. His passive. He gets a little coney AOE thingy, his mix, and you spend so much time collecting all these chimes and you don't get much out of it. So they and as far as ganks go, they're not too bad. I mean, getting behind someone is a CC in itself, and if you're behind someone, it's a bit easier to stun them into a minion wave. But again, because his passive's not that strong, not a lot of damage behind his passive, not a lot of damage coming into these ganks, so he very much relies on his laner when he comes in and he ganks people. He can get around the map really well, as long as there's a decent pathway of chimes to get there, because he can stack movement speed 5 times up. But what if he's got his meeps down at his first at the inner tower, and he's got a couple in the river, and he's got one down in red buff somewhere? I mean, he can't go all the way back and forward and all the way around the map because they spawn randomly. If he has a good pathway, if he's got a good pathway around his jungle and into mid lane, then he can get some good gank off, and he can get there in a really timely manner. And if the chimes are just right, he can get in, he can get out really quick. But Carrot, you're a support player. I play plenty of support myself. How often in your games have you gone, like, you're sitting on the tower, you're sitting in lane, whatever, and you go 20 centimeters toward, and your AD carry has died in that time?
That's it. I mean, in low level solo queue, you have to babysit your carry because they're stupid. No offense, if you're a bronze or silver level marksman, I love you, especially if you play well. But broadly speaking, you have to assume that every marksman you play with is an absolute moron, and they can't farm safely, and they will play forward. They'll try and farm. And the enemies, support would just jump on them.
It's like having a 3-year-old and leaving your front door open.
Yeah.
And you turn your back for 2 seconds, and the kid runs out onto the road, and you're like, "Oh no, I gotta save him."
Yeah. So I mean,
that's the best analogy I've ever heard.
So I mean, I think the 2v1 idea with Steve you mentioned, I think that's great because that essentially allows you to roam. Because your marksman can probably, it's a lot less risky to be in the top lane 1v1, depending, what the matchup is. But I mean, I don't have a problem with the weak, the not great in lane thing, because you're right, Vic. If you make them really good in the early game, in the laning phase, and then make them really, have these awesome abilities late game, it is just too powerful. I guess the main thing is you just get dumpstered. You get your ass handed to you, and there's nothing you can do about it. You just have no real way of enduring through that, because if you never get through that, if you never get to the mid game because you just got absolutely thrashed in the early game, what's the point? There's no point having this awesome ult if you then can't do anything with it because you're just so far behind.
Well, I think to summarize, Bard does something that no other champion can do, and he does it extremely well. His problems are in what he cannot do. And laning phase is a big part of the game.
Yeah. So
if you found a way around the laning phase, then you can really utilize his kit. But and the only way that I'm aware of there's probably 2 ways. One of them One of them's the lane swap, and the other one would be like double jungle. But I would not be doing that with Bard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a bit weird. But yeah, so I think that's probably enough.
Yeah,
on
let's talk about Blitzcrank. So I'm actually very interested by this change. So his W has been quite substantially changed. So previously it gave you sort of a between 16 and 30% movement speed boost over 8 seconds. Now you have a very strong movement burst, so between 70 and 90%. But it rapidly decays over 5 seconds. And then once you overdrive ends, you are slowed for 30% for a second and a half. What I like about this change is that 8 seconds is a long time to be running fast, especially when you've got boots of mobility. And it makes it much more reliable because what you do is you essentially can run up to somebody. And even if you get CC'd, it's such a long duration that you can catch up with them, power fist them, and then, essentially silence them if you got your ult. And if they try to flash, then you can hook them in. So this makes it the window of opportunity to do that sort of thing is much smaller, and you don't have to work so hard to essentially get away from him.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be one of those changes where it'll what's the phrase that they use? It'll separate the good Blitzcranks from the great great
that's
Blitzcranks. Yeah, like because Blitzcrank has been known since his inception as the dude that has that hook move.
Yep.
And really that is core and integral to his identity. When you think the hook, you think Blitzcrank. Other champions have come out, such as Thresh and Nautilus, that have these hook mechanics, but Blitzcrank is a very obvious. Okay, you move from there to the other guy. Nautilus has this. You both move towards each other, and Thresh has all kinds of weird stuff that he can do that's more like Spider-Man. Blitzcrank is very well known for that hook, and the hook has a lot to do with his movement speed change. Because now you've only got 5 seconds of movement speed. At max rank, it's 90%, which is a huge amount, but it rapidly decays. Now, they haven't actually got the figures here for how much it decays. So whether or not that... you'll need to use that initial burst of speed to make the play. And if the play fails, then you can be punished, because now you're slowed by 30%. Now, I read that, and I immediately think... speed reduction boots, like the Speed 3 grey boots, and it's like, well, that's an immediate self buff to his nerf, it's a type thing. So the previously 8 seconds of increased movement speed, you could walk up power fist anyone that didn't completely outspeed you normally. Now I think people are going to be relying on the grab a lot more often.
Yep. Which is fine. I mean, that's what he's about. So
exactly.
Yeah. Vic, do you want to add?
It's actually something I talked about on my show. Blitzcrank is supposed to be like a steam engine, and a steam engine doesn't just get hot straight away and starts running really, really fast. Like if you look at a steam train doesn't just go. It just does not happen. So now Blitzcrank sort of has a bit more steam engine in him, where he sort of powers down a bit. He's like, okay, I'm going slower. I think it's a total nerf, though.
Yeah, it is.
I do not think this helps Blitzcrank in the slightest. Previously, when it was what we always knew Overdrive as, it was basically this movement speed that was always running and gave him a 500 movement speed, and he could just run at people rather than... Apparently, I'm lagging really bad.
Yeah. Sorry, I can hear you.
Okay, so... Yeah, I don't know. Blitzcrank is stupid. He's that champion who's going to win the game for you or lose the game for you, and there's really no in-between on him. And I don't think this really helps that sad fate of Blitzcrank being win or lose. And
you've just reminded me of a picture of... It had a picture of Caitlyn and Blitzcrank in a lane together, and that was from the perspective of Udyr. He goes, who needs a gap closer when you've got a Blitzcrank? He just walks up to Gang, gets hooked, and kills Caitlyn.
Yeah.
It's a nice little comic book. That's a perfect example of that.
Yeah. I personally think Blitzcrank needs to be like healthy and competitive and not a pain in the ass to deal with in low levels. when he's on your team and when he's on the other team. Because when he's on my team, he's pulling Fat Nautilus into our face. When he's on the enemy team, he's pulling our fucking carries, and it shits me to death. So, he wins really hard or he loses really hard, and there's not a lot of in between for Blitzcrank. And I'd like to see a bit more gameplay and added to him, because right now it's just one core ability. Everything else is for that one core ability. Have fun. Whereas someone like Thresh can do a lot more. He can swap everyone aside. He can pick someone out. If he picked the wrong person, he doesn't have to follow up on that one. If he gets engaged on, he can put up all the walls. Like, he's got a lot of options. Blitzcrank, he pulls a dude. Like,
So I
there's
think
not a
what
lot
you're
of
saying is that Thresh is overpowered. That's what I'm getting.
What I'm saying is Blitzcrank is a very, very non-versatile champion, and I do not like non-versatile champions because they're boring and they don't add a lot to the game. And there are a few specifics, and there are a few situations in which they're helpful. All right, let's move on.
Yeah. Okay. Let's jump to Fizz. So there's, I mean, we'll try and knock off. How much we got?
You're skipping over Athene's unholy dunk.
Actually, you know what we didn't talk
That's
about?
my favorite patch note.
Yeah. We haven't talked. Actually, we haven't talked about Athene's. We should never talk about that. We didn't talk about that from last. That was going to be the thing we were going to talk about this week.
Did. Yeah, we
Did
did.
we?
We finished the podcast.
Did we?
I
Okay.
said I
All
think
right.
Steve wants
I
to talk about
basically
Athene.
said, yeah, Chalice of Harmony is overpowered was my response.
Yeah. Okay.
Like,
Sorry. Go.
I was just gonna say, like, it already has amazing mana regen, like the low level mana regen. If you get an assist, you get mana regen. They gave it more mana regen twice, and like there was a big reason to take Morella Nomicon before, and it wasn't the debuff; it was the cooldown reduction for the low price and the ability power. Now the benefits of Athene's Unholy Grail are really attractive. And it's actually shifted the meta in ARAMs, funnily enough, because now you can start Chalice and Adoran's Ring.
There's a meta in ARAM.
There's a meta in ARAM.
When Steve's playing, there is a fucking meta in
Yeah.
when I watch other people,
It's not much of a meta when
you
you can't actually choose the champion for yourself. But
but there's still a playstyle and there's
guess so.
compositions that you're
Steve,
given that you have to work with.
For Steve, it's grab the heals and do what he says.
Yeah, pretty much. Beware the wrath of Steve.
If you're missing health and there's a health relic up, all you're doing is giving the enemy team an advantage by not picking up that health relic.
Anyway,
The one would have respawned.
let's talk Darius.
Yeah.
So Darius
I didn't put
now
I actually... Well, you could tell what the changes are. Go ahead.
So yeah, I was gonna say, like, he refunds 20, 50, 100 mana on kill, and on rank 3, the cooldown of Noxian Guillotine when he kills somebody resets completely. So basically, going back to what it was like on launch. I'm curious to know if the refunded mana is only if you get the kill with his ult.
It's on... okay, that's actually really interesting. I didn't think about that, but
because if it's only on his ult, like it's only if you execute someone, that's not very good because it's actually really hard to execute somebody, like reliably. Like I know, not the very few times I actually use Darius, I find it almost impossible to get that reset. If it's you get the mana regen for any kill, that's good.
I mean, for Darius, he doesn't have like the Cho'Gath or the Zed benefit where you can see where, okay, the shuriken's above their head, they're going to die. Or, oh, there's a bunch of teeth around them, I eat them, they're going to die. There are a couple mechanics. Darius doesn't really have anything like that. And a rank 3 full refund, cool, I guess. I don't think that's that amazing. I think the mana on kill is very good because a problem I had when I was playing Darius, when I used to play Darius a lot because I was a scumbag like that in bronze, is you get through a couple dunks and then you'd be out of mana, and you'd want to execute the next person, but you're out of mana, you can't do it.
Yeah.
According to the wiki,
I
was just gonna say the wiki says that it's when it kills the target you get the mana refund. So
okay, that's really. Yeah, I didn't think of that. That's actually really cool. I think that's a really cool buff. There's actually they're toying around with a thing on PBE, and I actually had this idea for Darius where Well, it's actually an idea I had for Garen as well, where when he kills someone, well, my idea for Garen was when he executes someone, he sort of like inspires the rest of the team, and they all get this big burst of movement speed. Because it's like, whoa, and that's a thing they have in Dota on a character called Axe, where if he kills someone with his ult, everyone gets a burst of movement speed. It's basically the same as Noxian Guillotine or Demacian Justice. And they're playing around with a change on the PBE right now, where when Darius kills someone, he gets a big burst of movement speed, so he can chase people down for the next one. So
Yeah,
I think a change
that'd
like
be a good
that would be
change.
cool. Or even, apparently it's really OP though, from what I hear. Or even a change where, like he gets, like his pullback or something. Like he can use his pull again, because then he can grab his next target. I don't know, something like that. I think more mechanics are good rather than complete reset. More mechanics is always the best way to go, because you got more levers.
I mean,
More
I
things
think
to
just putting an indicator saying when it's a bit like you said about Cho'Gath. You know, Cho'Gath's got a thing that when you're low enough to kill, to bite, to chomp them and eat them, there's an indicator. If you had the same thing with Darius, where maybe like some axes come above your head when you're ready to be executed, like that would be helpful. I mean, that'd be a huge buff to him, but I think it'd be a decent, like it wouldn't be overpowered. It'd just make him just much more usable, like much more friendly to use.
It'd be a really neat quality. It'd be a really neat quality of life. But yeah, I just like it when they add more mechanics to a champion and give you more things to think about while you're playing a champion. Darius doesn't have a lot to think about when you're playing. Pull the dude, use the abilities, press the R button. You use the abilities again, press the R button on the next dude, press the R button again. You're out of mana. Good work. Now it's pull the dudes and you don't run out of mana.
Yep.
And you get a complete reset. But
I think we're getting through these patch notes tonight.
No, there's not.
Evelyn,
I just scroll down for like 45 seconds.
I know. It's a bit like that. So, patch 5.8 coming to you next week as well. Yay!
Oh,
so maybe we'll just leave it there. I mean, we're not going to. I mean, basically we're at. We should probably wrap it up. But yeah, we'll talk about. So we'll talk Evelyn onwards next week. God willing, if patch 5.8 doesn't come through and make me want to kill myself.
I can tell you a thing about Evelyn. Evelyn has more damage, and that's okay.
Good stuff.
There we go. We can start.
Fizz is more annoying. Maybe we should do like a super fast, like a 1 minute patch notes round. We could call it TLDR patch notes. Oh my gosh, what a great idea!
We
don't have the OPL to cover next week, so we can probably smash out a whole bunch of them. Listen to questions. Send in the questions as well.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll certainly
do a lightning round. Yeah, lightning round. Steve, tell us about Fizz.
Bam, bam, bam. All right, cool. Well, that's it for episode 82. My name's Carrot Colossus. Don't forget anything. I have something to think about. Don't be like me. I forgot stuff. Yeah, I was going to say something about OPL, and I'm like, there's no OPL. Actually, well, 2 weeks from now, you got the wild card, so make sure you check that out. Cool. Well, have yourselves a good week. We'll be back again next week.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.